Hey dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Today I want to get into new updates on BTS enlistment. I know, another video on this, but we are getting so many updates lately and I believe we may be close or at the final decision. I also want to get into V releasing a video talking about how he has felt recently. So hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, tea-spilling milk merch, and let's get into it. First thing we have to get into is the bomb that was dropped this morning. BTS released in the beginning of the month a teaser schedule. If you didn't know, in the schedule it tells us exactly what will be released and when. This includes the teasers, the concept photos, and just anything that will get us hyped for the new albums and songs. The concept stuff I typically tend to find it doesn't represent the album or song too much. That's just my opinion. For Dynamite, they released a concept photo of them in a fake restaurant. I personally feel like maybe they should have done something like a bowling alley or something to give the concept photos more of a disco rock or early 90s vibe, which is kind of what Dynamite sounds like. And then for Permission to Dance, they did a photo shoot on the beach, but the video was more cowboy themed. So I kind of feel like the concept photos are there to throw us off, and maybe there is a small correlation, like photography for the Dynamite concept photos were very 90s with the harsh flash and stuff, but typically when you think of concept photos and what they may be of, you may imagine a photo with a similar set to the music video. But I guess there's a fine line there to avoid spoiling the music video. Just keep this in mind as BTS releases their stuff. Take the concept photo with a grain of salt, and if you're watching one of the teasers and you like the specific thing about the teaser, maybe the filming style or stuff like that, just note that there is a big possibility that may not be the official music video. But it was announced that HYBE will drop a proof of inspiration, and Taeyang was the first one to drop. This was a very emotional video where Taeyang got really into his feelings and got very candid. It was sad to hear about this and what he was struggling with. I'll get into it soon. But his video appeared like it may have been filmed by himself and during Vegas. It was a film style with grain and all that, and you can see the palm trees and stuff, and he was saying pretty inspirational stuff. He talked about how he had identified with two different people. There was V and then there was Kim Taeyang, and he felt like V was the persona on stage and then Taeyang was him with his family and friends. He felt like he kind of separated the two, but now felt like he could acknowledge both sides and accept both of them. I think it's a very easy coping mechanism to fall into and put yourself in when you're someone who is that famous. To have two sides, because if there's two sides of you, it's easier to not take things too personally, if that makes sense. So if V tends to be this person that is outgoing and whatnot, and let's say just for example, some people hate that, so they call him out on that and tell him that they think that he sucks. Well, it's easy for then V to be like, V is just a character and it's not the real me, and the real Taeyang could be more reserved. This is easier to accept the hate because then the celebrity may be able to put the hate on the other character and say, you hate V, not my real self. And that's a way to protect yourself, right? It's great to see Taeyang come around and learn to love both sides and also just be really candid. I think it's difficult to tell how you actually feel online because you never know who is going to take that and twist it into something else. This is also a reason why forming a character is so important, to be able to hide certain parts that you don't want public facing, things you may be more insecure about. It was a beautiful video, and if you have seen it, I do want to know how you feel about it. Do you think the video was well shot, and what do you think about the message? Him kind of coming of age and learning more about himself and acceptance. I think we can all take a page from that book and learn to accept ourselves and the parts that we may not feel is worth sharing to people close to us, and we may be inclined to share them now. As I've gotten older, I've learned it's okay to do things like that, and if those people don't accept you, find someone else. It's much better to be alone than to be with people who don't accept you. I promise you. You may not have someone to talk to, but it's better to talk to yourself and listen to yourself than it is to have a conversation with someone and every time you do, you feel worse than if you didn't. Recently, there's been a lot of emotions going about in the air, and it's sad because the fandom does believe that the military status of BTS is coming to a close end and a decision is coming very quickly. First of all, it was supposed to be decided at the end of April or something, like an official decision, but the government takes their sweet time with everything. There's a show called PD Note, which airs on NBC. The show is an investigative journalism show, so they go into the deep, big questions of the K-pop world or whatever. And the episode before it aired got a lot of controversy. People immediately were jumping at this idea that the segment was going to be bashing BTS and demanded for it to be deleted. But it hadn't aired yet. This happens so much with so many different shows, and it's like, when will some of these people learn to watch it before making a decision on if it's bad or not? But anywho, the episode was aired and it began to talk about the likelihood for this BTS exemption, which allegedly is very low. The segment had some powerful people speak, but it wasn't anyone in the government, just high music officials. And one of them mentioned this idea that even if a law does pass, it might already be too late, because apparently there's a 6-month period to which it takes a law to be officially enacted. I don't know Korean law that well, so take that as you will, but if that is true, then I don't see how an exemption is fully possible. Jin has until his birthday, which is the beginning of December. 6 months from now, it will be November, so if the government did it quickly right now, they'd have a chance. If it's passed in June, the chance would be very low to probably impossible, going by what the PD Note episode is saying. There was also a conference where Sung Il-jung spoke at. I believe he is the Prime Minister, and he spoke to the tourism board to talk about how it would be a national loss if BTS went, because Jin would have to go and then the other members would have to enlist separately. If BTS goes, they will enlist separately. This is pretty much confirmed. Each of them individually applied for their enlistment to be postponed until they're 30, and so each of their enlistment times, like when they absolutely have to go, are different now. So there's no reason for them to all postpone until they're 30 if they're planning on going together. So they're probably not. So BTS will likely start their solo careers when the enlistment for Jin happens. And a lot of people even theorize this new anthology album maybe because they might take this hiatus as a group. And people in the government, it seems like they're expecting this too. The minister also mentioned that Jin has until December 31st before enlistment, and interestingly enough, it wasn't on Jin's birthday, but the minister is going by the end of the calendar year. So it's good that Jin won't have to enlist by his birthday, at least at the moment. This is kind of the closest response that we have from the government and or people with maybe some insider information. We obviously don't know for sure, but we are inching closer and closer to June. If the law isn't passed by then I am concerned that there is a very small chance to no chance. But maybe BTS already knows this. There was, I believe, the military administration that had allegedly spoken out about this. Allegedly, they claimed that BTS does not have the requirements to be exempt and that their awards are not enough, basically. They claimed that the awards are based on album sales and fan votes, and thus awards like the BBMAs or AMAs or whatever are not enough, because apparently sales and votes are not important. If this is true, this is so confusing to me, because then what is enough? How are you to measure success if not awards and economic contribution? Because if you're saying album sales are not enough, then you're saying money is not enough, in which case, then shut down the whole economy then. Like, what is that response? Then it confuses me why athletes are exempt, because you can't go into the military offices and say, I'm an athlete. You likely have to win overseas awards or play in the Olympics or something, all of which you would be granted an award or need to have prior awards to do that. So if awards don't matter, album sales don't matter, then what matters? It's them always changing the goalpost. I don't understand what the big deal is. I feel like it's a bunch of children debating something that has a very clear answer. It's things like this that is why if a national tragedy happens, the government is always so slow to react. Imagine having to make this decision if a war breaks out and the government officials are just standing there like, let's have a debate. However, the anthology album would be a decent goodbye for ARMY if it is, and I also believe that RM may have even addressed his feelings towards this last year. In November, RM released an emotional letter to ARMY, and he talked about how he was feeling. RM spoke about how he was looking for peace and comfort, only to realize that as human beings, and he and other people may not want stability or peace deep down, but likes to have some adrenaline and fear. Although the letters were directed towards wanting to see ARMY again after a long pandemic and quarantine, it's also a letter to show that BTS and RM will not be scared of what will happen in the future, but accept what will come their way and make it through. Even if BTS were to enlist after the new law is passed, I don't see how that is bad either, because then they can just leave the military service early, right? But let me know what you think, and make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thank you for this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.